if we're going to be successful at something, our reason for doing it matters so much. Like, for example, why did I decide to go keto? Why did you decide to go keto? For me, it was a hip that was killing me, and I couldn't imagine being able to work another day like that. And for you?
For me, for sure, it was bikini season. I really wanted to lose the weight and fit in my white Speedo to go on the beach.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition. I'm Violet,
And I'm Pat.
and obviously,
For
that's
sure.
not the real reason that you started keto.
No, that's not the real reason.
You started keto because I started keto.
Yeah.
But the question is that the best reason to just follow somebody? The reason that we start keto actually makes a huge difference in our commitment to keto. And I actually find it kind of apropos that you and I started different ways and look at where we ended up. And I think that one of the things that you guys can learn from this, and hopefully we're going to kind of dive deep into this topic for you, is when you are scared and you have a reason that's health, the chance that you're going to stick to the answer you find is very much there. Like, I would not trade that so I've been sitting in this chair now for about 3 hours filming with you, and I'm still sitting.
Yeah.
I could not do that before. Tears would have been like I couldn't do it. I feel like it's important for us to understand why we're doing what we're doing. So, Pat, I think
My
what was the
Speedo?
first thing? Your Speedo,
You want to talk my Speedo?
as cute as you,
I still don't have it. My Speedo.
as cute as you would look in a Speedo. Let's talk about the
Yeah.
real reasons that
Yeah.
people should think about. Like,
But for me, you were right. You are right. I did start because you did start, and like I guess I'm that kind of guy. If I see like in my partner something that works, I'm gonna be willing to try, willing to do it. It took me some time though. To be honest, it took me a few months before I jumped in fully into it. But like this was my progressive trajectory towards keto. So is it a good why? I'm not sure if it's a good why because I was definitely less committed, I guess.
but I also want to point out something that's interesting because you said it took you a few months, which is the other part of the story. It was obvious that you started keto because of my weight loss,
Yeah.
not because of my amazing health. Because the truth is that only took a month and a half ish. Because when you asked me about my hip, it was about a month and a half in when I was like, oh wow, my hip is actually gone. I hadn't thought about it in so long. But that wasn't when you started. It wasn't like, wow, she completely changed her internals. And no, you started when I started to lose weight,
I couldn't see your internals.
but I was feeling better.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I mean, and like, there was a lot that happened in that first month and a half that was obvious. 'Cause I remember like being like that, talking about my mental, just like feeling so much more sharp, and like sleeping better. I remember that happened really fast too. And those were not the things that made you jump on board. So I do feel like it's important for us to really, you know what? It sucks. It sucks that like we are so much focused on how we look that sometimes the bigger important things are right in front of us.
Yeah.
And like,
But I'm joking with the Speedo, but like the weight was a big consideration in going low carb keto because it was getting problematic.
Okay.
I was at a point where I wasn't feeling good. I was like, I knew there was that hypertension problem that I wanted to solve. I knew I was on my way to be pre-diabetic, if not diabetic, because like a few years before I did like a full checkup and the doctor like warned me, but I didn't change. I did change something. I moved more, but like ate the same junk, but and the same healthy junk. To be clear, I was not eating that much fast food, and it was more like pasta, rice, bread, and carbs.
that's important too. Like you and I, like when I met you, it wasn't hard to get you involved in all my crazy activities. Like it wasn't hard at all. Like we right away started playing badminton together. Right away, no, not right away, but a few months in, we started skateboarding together, longboarding together. I even got you to buy a pair of rollerblades. Like really quickly, I got you to buy a trike. Like really quickly, like you were just on board. Like it's not to say that. This is not to say that you're not a person who's willing to do and move, but that's what's so crazy. Again, it's like when you're doing all the things that the doctors are telling you, and it's not working.
Yeah,
It shakes you also sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it makes you feel like nothing is going to work and we give up. Right. And I feel like the one thing, at least for me in my life, the one thing I couldn't give up on was doing my activities. And I hate medication. So those two ideas coming together, that I would have to take medication for this hip forever and not being able to do my activities was such a huge push. Right? I feel like you're having that huge push now yourself, because now your health is becoming like a huge, like focus for you. Your why is changing.
Yeah, it's true. My why is changing. Yeah, indeed. My why is changing. Maybe my why was a bit weaker at the beginning. But weaker, I was like doing like you did because it was working. That was bringing me to how many of our regular viewer. We thank you. We are so happy to see your comments every week, even twice a week. They seem to be like always. They're doing some efforts, but like not fully committing. What can we offer them? Like how can we help them to have clear whys? Or a clear why they want to do things. I'm not sure. Like sometimes, like I see a difficulty to commit to fully going keto, or maybe some are progressing, like I did, like towards a keto lifestyle. But I'm just like trying to understand like what's missing for people to just like jump in and do it.
I believe that most of the problem comes from our programming. That we've been taught that it's not a problem until it's a problem. And so many of us are not willing to put that work in, that effort in, to have better before it's a problem. So like in my case, I did not know that the sugar was causing the problem. I don't know what would have happened if, when I was 20, if I would have learned that my knee problems were being caused by the sugar that I was eating. If I would have had the same push that I was having when it was my hip. Now, in all fairness, let's put some perspective on this. I'm that person that even through all the years of pain, I just kept going. Why? Because I like doing activities. If I could have done all those activities pain-free, I'm so sure I would have done it. Right? The problem is, I don't know that I would have done it if the only benefit I was going to get was being thin. Because being heavier in my culture isn't actually a problem.
Okay, that was not a problem. Okay.
Right? So, like, would I have put in that same amount of energy? Like, Wellness Warriors, you see how I struggle against getting any thinner than I am. Right? So I feel like our culture also plays a role here. We live in a world that says being thin matters more. But we also live in a world that says you should be able to eat whatever junk you want and
exercise it off.
And exercise it off. And that lie keeps us in trouble. Because we want to have both. We want to be super thin and whatever, and want to eat whatever we want. And nobody's talking about what's happening internally. Nobody's talking about the fact that you can be thin and inside. So imagine that I pull up in a Porsche, perfect looking Porsche.
A Porsche.
Excuse me, in a Porsche, perfect looking, right? And from the outside, you're like, oh my gosh, amazing. And then you get in the car and everything inside is dirty. The engine is dilapidated. Like it can only go 5 kilometers an hour. Is it still having the same value to you? But that's what we do here. As long as the externals look good, we're ignoring the internals. But the internals is what makes a Porsche a Porsche. Right? You can take the body of a Porsche and put it on a Toyota whatever, and it's not the same. I want us to really think about when I'm going to eat a certain way, why am I eating food? Am I eating to build and fuel this amazing thing that I call Violet? Or am I eating because it's going to taste fun, even though it's going to hurt Violet? If I think that every time I go to put food in my mouth, does it change what I'm doing? Absolutely, I can tell you that it does, because that's the thought I have every time I go to eat. I don't eat until I'm hungry, and I only eat meals. I only eat meals. So think about that. It's been 3 years. Violet only eats meals.
I'm gonna go with like maybe a little bit of a simplistic reasoning here, because you're talking about putting the effort, and I'm like doing keto, doing low carb, like even doing keto, doing carnivore even. It's a way much simpler way of cooking your food. So it's the idea of doing an effort, like if everybody was keto, like it would be much like simpler, much faster to cook meals. Like having fun food takes a lot of effort.
If everybody was keto, those crappy foods wouldn't be there to tempt me. The effort isn't in cooking a healthy meal. The effort is in walking past the cookies and not eating them. The effort is in being different when I go out to eat. So being the only one in the restaurant who's drinking a coffee because I'm not hungry. Now, Violet does that. Why? Why am I going to eat when I'm not hungry? To me, first of all, I've never been a person that liked food or loved food or like lived to eat. I've always been the person who eats to live. The idea that I'm just going to eat because everybody else is eating makes no sense to me. What about you? Are you strong enough to be at a dinner party? I'll do you one better. I know people that can't go to a dinner party and not have a drink, even though they don't feel like drinking, but they're still going to have a drink because everybody's drinking. I can't be the only person who's not drinking. Guess what? I've been in bars and spent the whole night drinking soda. Why? Because I didn't feel like it, and also I was driving. I could have had one beer at the beginning of the night and, right, let it last me all night. Why? When we talk about putting in the effort, it's allowing myself to do the thing that I know is healthier for me, even if I could open myself up to judgment, even if it could be a little uncomfortable. Am I willing to put in that work? And I think it's worth it. But it's only worth it when your reason makes sense to you. All right? The flip side of the coin is, if I don't understand that, for example, eating fruit is bad for me, if I don't understand that, if I truly believe that, no, my nutritionist told me that I'm supposed to eat 5, I will eat the 5 fruit, because why not? They taste good. And the nutritionist told me that they're good for me. So am I going to not eat something that tastes good if I think there's nothing wrong with it? And this is where we get into trouble and problems, right? Is that you actually need to have information that points you to a direction that's good. If you're not being pointed in a direction that's good, you're going to do what you've always done. So when we talk about effort, that's the effort. The effort is understanding, learning, allowing yourself to learn what's better.
It's funny because I just recently went to a little after day. We went for a drink with colleagues, a colleague that was leaving for another job, and you just mentioning like being how did you say that, being open to judgment, and it was actually the case where they did order some food. It was some pitas with like dips, and I didn't have any. Like I knew we would be eating together after, and like funny enough, like the first question that came from all the 4 colleagues or 5 colleagues that were looking at me a little bit weird was, "Oh, Pat, are you still doing keto?" And then it opened up the conversation to carnivore, but like, and it was like even weirder, but it's okay. Like they won't like you less because you eat differently. And it's for me, it's even like an opportunity to tell them about like health and how maybe eating because like one was like, "Oh, where do you get your vitamin C? Like you don't eat fruit." So it was like a fun conversation, and like I did send them a couple of videos that I found on YouTube, and your videos too, even your channel, and yeah,
What I
it's like
find interesting too is like this whole idea of, do I feel weird? If you were allergic to something
mm,
and you were in a restaurant and I'm here, I'm having a coffee, I'm here with you, and you say, oh, like, why aren't you eating? And you were to say, oh,
mm,
I have such severe allergies, I don't want to take the chance. Nobody would
mm,
question you. But because you're saying, I don't eat carbs,
mm,
oh my goodness, what's wrong with you? I mean, like, it's
mhm,
so interesting to me. I mean, the good news is that you were able to manage that
mhm,
stress or stress, potential stress. It
mhm.
wasn't a stress for you this
No,
time.
yeah,
But how many people would have eaten the thing to not
yeah,
have to deal with the questions?
yeah,
Because this is the other thing that's hard. We think that if we're not eating like everybody else, something's wrong with us. I know people who cheat on their spouse. I don't cheat on my spouse. Is there something wrong with me? We don't always
mm,
have to do what most people do,
mm,
right? We can look at what most people do and realize that's not healthy and just not do it, right? And I feel like it's such a strange thing in our culture that we do that if most people do it, then you should be doing it too. And then when people get sick or hurt or whatever, then we're going to say, well, boys will be boys, or these
mm,
things happen, or how about stop encouraging people to do things that are dangerous,
mm.
that are not healthy? I mean, there are multiple different health reasons that people go keto. I think weight is one of
Wait
them.
is one.
Unfortunately, weight is the most common one. So this brings
Mm,
us to another interesting thing. We treat keto like a diet.
yeah, you want to lose your 20 pounds and fit in your bikini, and then you're back to, because we see that often. Like people are going back, they're kind of looking forward to going to finish that diet and going back their old ways, but this is probably the worst thing you can do,
I honestly
like the
believe
yo-yo
that
dieting.
that it's some kind of conspiracy from the food companies
Mm,
that every food companies slash exercise industry,
mm,
that every spring we are on diets and we're
mm,
working out like crazy people, and then come winter when we're going to put on some flares, that we just
mhm.
relax and we eat all the junk food that we want, and we just cycle in and out of this every
Yeah.
year. And it's hard because you think about like all the work that people put in to getting into shape. Like we were watching that video from that YouTube dude that does real estate, and you're watching all the energy and effort that he put into 10 weeks of working out
Oh
like
yeah.
some actor, to turn
Oh yeah.
around and do what after the 10 weeks is over? Eat normally? I mean, I hope he doesn't.
Mm,
But it's amazing to me when someone will under no this that's part of the problem. You don't understand. You're following recipes,
yeah.
you're following a diet plan, even
Mm,
if you're doing keto, but you're not truly
mm,
understanding why it's working.
mm,
So then when you've reached your goal, you don't stick with it.
yeah.
And the best part
So
is the worst part. You see, if you do keto really well, like I did, 70 pounds in 5 months.
mm, but you're
That
not looking for that.
But the problem
Yeah.
is that best part is the worst part. Because if I was a person that didn't know why I was doing it, I would have gone back to eating normally.
Mm,
I would have ballooned back up
yeah.
and I would have had to start over. And, or even worse, I might have said, oh, this doesn't work. Look at me, I'm fat again. But
Mm,
I wasn't doing keto anymore. So this is the thing that I don't understand. And people don't seem to want to acknowledge that a good way of eating is a way of eating that you can do forever. And part of the reason that the Mediterranean diet, for example, so people who live in the Mediterranean and eat that way are able to stay at a healthy weight because they've always eaten that way. And they're not chasing processed foods. They're
mhm.
eating a whole foods diet and are able to maintain their health. If we would stop and really think about, in any healthy way of eating, if you do it forever, you get the results
Yeah.
forever.
So if that's funny, because if your why is temporary, it's probably not a good why or not for good reasons. We were saying at the beginning of the video that my why was maybe not that good, but at least it was a long-term why. Doing like you was not was not a temporary thing. Or if you would have stopped doing it, I would probably have stopped. But
Yeah.
like doing like you was a permanent why, so it was maybe not that bad after all.
Yeah, honestly, I think one of the things that we need to do is like pay attention to the fact that as much as you haven't maintained keto the whole time, you are still much lighter
Oh
than
yeah,
you
yeah.
were before you started eating appropriately.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we insert picture because like
Oh, yeah.
you are much lighter. So I feel like one of the things that we need to acknowledge is that even though you didn't get to that health goal yet that we're now looking at as your new reason for doing this, that's yet. Like I have no question mark in my mind that you will get to it
Yeah.
because you understand how this functions and now you know what you need to do, right? But I don't think that people really have well, we've shown pictures before, but I feel like I know the differences. I remember where we
Oh,
both
yeah, I
were,
remember
and
pictures,
I
yeah.
know where you are now, and I'm enthusiastic about you being more committed again. But honestly, I can still say, sweetheart, that you have maintained like
Yeah.
the same position for a very long time, which tells me that it's just a matter of recommitting, and you're going to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
But like I do feel on some level, you're right. Like being beside me and like, yeah, like every time you're with me, we eat the same. And I mean, when I'm not there, I'm not there. But like
I
at
eat
least,
pizza, burgers, and French fries, and
but
I
no,
eat
but
good
I do
when-
feel
yeah,
that
of
it
course.
has helped because even when I'm not there, like I'm constantly talking about this stuff, guys. I mean, seriously, how he puts up with me, I do not know. But I'm always finding new research, new stuff, emailing you stuff, and like trying to help you and help more people to understand that there's a reality that if we really want to be healthy, there's work to do.
Yeah.
Right? Good health takes work. Right? And I feel like the same way that happiness takes work, good health takes work. And the best way to do this is prioritizing your health over the taste of food.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I'm always saying prioritize health over taste, because the taste of food is fleeting. Your health, if when you have it, takes you so far into the future, it's unreal. Like I'm so happy that yesterday we were able to go for a nice long ride on our scooters, and it was fun. And we had the bodies to do it still at our age, right? And I know people our age who could not do what we did yesterday.
So your why is important. You need to find it, I think, to be fully committed. It has to be a non-temporary why. I think like if it's just something
Permanent, yeah.
like it's not permanent, like you're gonna like go back to old habits you probably don't wanna go. But after that, I think like whenever you have your why and it's clear and it's long term, it's permanent, then you just like need to set a list of appropriate goals. And for like the same thing, like the goals need to be. I think we had video in the past. Maybe you can link them up if we think about it, but maybe we can just take that part out because we never think about putting video. But the same like as the why, I think the goals need to be long term.
Honestly, if you were trying to maintain muscle, you'd have a goal of going to the gym every single day or everything. Well, not every single day, but like a few times a week. It's the same thing here. If you want to have a healthy body, then you need to eat healthily every day, right? This is part of why I said to you guys earlier, every time I eat, it's a meal. Because that's what my body, if my body's asking me for nutrients, it's not asking me for a chocolate bar. It's asking me for protein and healthy energy source. That's what my body's going to build with, right? Those healthy fats and healthy proteins. My body isn't building me with carbohydrates. It's using some carbohydrates for fuel, but it's not building me with that. So when it's telling me to go get building blocks, it does not need me to bring in carbs, because guess what? My body makes carbs. It never needs me to bring in carbs. Understand what your body needs. Give it what it needs. There are some videos on the screen right there that are going to help you to improve your health. Wellness Warriors, I'm always so happy that you guys come back, and everybody who's new, welcome.
and share the video and like and subscribe and ring the bell.
He said all the things.
Yeah.
Do them. I want to thank you
course.
for watching Mind Blowing Health and Wellness with Violet, Pat Chat Edition.
Talk to you next week.
Can't wait to talk to you again next week.